Before I start, I need to ask you a question that's going to change the way you see everything in your life. What are you sacrificing today that's going to make you cry tomorrow? Think about that while I tell you my story. And if you're past 40, past 50, and you still haven't stopped to think about what really matters, for God's sake, don't close this video, because what I'm about to tell you here might save you from ending up like me. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button so more people understand that success without love is failure with money. And stay until the end, because I'm going to reveal the most painful decision I made last week, a decision that's going to shock you. Now sit down and listen to me. My name is Robert Clayton Morrison. I'm 68 years old. I own the third largest ranch in Oklahoma. 12,000 acres of good land, productive land, land worth a fortune. 5,000 head of prime Angus cattle. 3 houses on the property, each one better than the last. State-of-the-art farming equipment. Tractors that cost more than luxury homes. Cutting-edge technology in every corner of this ranch. On paper, I'm one of the richest men in the county. In reality, I'm the poorest man you'll meet today because all this grandeur, all this achievement has no owner after me. I have no son, I have no daughter, I have no grandchildren, I have nobody, and the blame is mine alone. Let me tell you how I got here. I was born in 1957, right here in Oklahoma, on a ranch that belonged to my grandfather. My father, John Morrison, took over the ranch when I was a kid. Back then, we had about 2,000 acres, which was already considerable, but nothing compared to what it is today. My father was a man of few words and much action. He woke up at 4 in the morning every single day, without exception. Rain, snow, scorching sun, sickness, it didn't matter. At 4 in the morning he was up, drinking strong black coffee and heading out to the field. And from very early on I went with him. I started working seriously on the ranch at 16. Before that, of course, I already helped here and there. But at 16, my father sat down with me and said, "Robert, you're a man now. Men work, men build. Men don't fool around when there's work to be done." And I took that seriously. Maybe too seriously. I dropped out of school, which was common in rural areas at the time, and dedicated myself body and soul to the ranch. While other boys my age were dating, going to parties, enjoying their youth, I was fixing fences, taking care of cattle, learning everything my father could teach me. My father died when I was 30, massive heart attack. He was only 55 years old, but the hard work took its toll. I remember that day, like it was yesterday. It was March 1987. I found my father collapsed in the barn, already lifeless. The pain I felt at that moment was indescribable. He was my hero, my mentor, my best friend. Losing him was losing a part of myself. But I didn't have time to cry much. I had a ranch to run, responsibilities, employees depending on me, bills to pay. So I swallowed my tears and went to work. That's when something crystallized inside me. I made a promise there, standing next to my father's grave. I promised I would make that ranch grow in a way that would make him proud. I promised I would honor his legacy, his work, his sacrifice. And for the next 38 years, I kept that promise. But the price I paid was too high. In the first years after I took over the ranch, I became obsessed. I woke up at 3 in the morning, even earlier than my father used to wake up. I worked until 9, 10 at night. I ate while driving the tractor. I slept 4, 5 hours a night. Every penny that came in I reinvested. I bought neighboring lands whenever the opportunity arose. Some farmers were going broke, selling for low prices. I bought. It wasn't out of malice, it was business. And the ranch grew. In 10 years I doubled the size of the property. In 20 years I tripled it. But while the ranch grew, my personal life shrank. Or rather, it didn't even exist. I'm going to be honest with you in a way I've never been with anyone. I'm 68 years old and I'm a virgin. I've never been with a woman, I've never really dated, I've never married. I've never had that kind of intimacy that every human being should experience. And it wasn't for lack of opportunity. There were interested women over the years. There were looks, smiles, invitations. But I always had an excuse. I don't have time, I'd say. I have too much work, I'd justify. Women are complications, I'd think. The truth is, I was afraid. afraid of dividing my attention, afraid that a relationship would take my focus off the ranch, afraid of losing control. And deep down, very deep down, I think I was afraid of being vulnerable, of needing someone, of depending on someone. My father always said, a man who needs a woman to be happy isn't a man, he's a boy. And I believed that nonsense. I believed that strength was not needing anyone, that success was working alone. That achievement was seeing the ranch grow, regardless of anything else. I remember one woman in particular, Sarah Beth Connors. She was 28 when we met in 1992. I was 35. She was a teacher at the town's elementary school, had just moved from Dallas. Light brown hair, green eyes that sparkled when she smiled, and a gentle way of being that unsettled me inside. We met at church. Yes, I went to church back then every Sunday, more out of social custom than true faith. Sarah Beth sat next to me one Sunday morning. We talked after the service. She had this laugh that made my chest feel warm. She was kind, intelligent, had dreams of making a difference in children's lives. We started talking more. She'd come to the ranch sometimes, bring me homemade pie, sit on the porch and watch the sunset with me. I think she was interested. No, I know she was interested. The way she looked at me, the way she found excuses to touch my arm when we talked, the way she always made time for me even though she had a busy schedule. And I felt something too. Something I'd never felt before. My heart would race when I saw her truck coming down the dirt road. I'd catch myself thinking about her while working. I'd imagine what it would be like to have her here permanently, to wake up next to her, to build a life together. But I never made a move. Never told her how I felt. Never asked her out properly. I was too scared, too focused on work, too convinced that I didn't have time for that kind of thing. After about 8 months of her coming around, she stopped, just like that. One Sunday she wasn't at church, the next Sunday either. I heard through town gossip that she'd started dating Tom Henderson, the veterinarian. 6 months later they were married. 2 years later they had their first child. Today they have 4 grown kids and 7 grandchildren. I see them sometimes at the feed store in town. They still look happy. Tom puts his arm around her waist. She still has that same warm laugh. Every time I see them, my chest tightens. Because that could have been me, that should have been me. But I was too stupid, too scared, too obsessed with acres and cattle and machinery to see what was right in front of me. Sarah Beth was my chance at a real life, at love, at family. And I let her slip away because I thought the ranch was more important. And that became the pattern of my life. Work, work, work. Expand, improve, grow. The ranch became everything. I told myself it was noble, that I was honoring my father's memory, that I was building something meaningful. But the truth is I was hiding from intimacy, hiding from vulnerability, hiding from the risk of letting someone in and potentially losing them like I lost my father. The years passed in a blur. My 30s turned into my 40s. My 40s turned into my 50s. I kept working, the ranch kept growing. I bought more land, invested in better equipment, hired more workers, built a second house on the property for a foreman, then a third one, upgraded everything. The ranch became a model of efficiency and profitability. Other ranchers would come visit to see how I did things. Agricultural magazines wrote articles about my operation. I won awards from the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association. On the outside, I was living the dream. On the inside, I was dying of loneliness. But I didn't let myself feel it. I pushed it down, buried it under more work, told myself I was fine, told myself I had everything I needed, told myself that family and relationships were for other people, softer people, weaker people. I was strong. I was independent. I didn't need anyone. First audience engagement. Let me ask you something, and I really want you to think about this and leave your answer in the comments. Have you ever convinced yourself you were fine when you really weren't? Have you ever pushed down feelings of loneliness or emptiness and covered them up with work or hobbies or anything to avoid facing the truth? Because I spent decades doing exactly that, and I'm telling you right now, it doesn't work. That pain doesn't go away. It just grows quietly inside you until one day it explodes. Write in the comments what you're avoiding facing in your own life. Maybe saying it out loud, even just in a comment. will help you start dealing with it before it's too late like it is for me. My 50s were hard in ways I didn't expect. My body started breaking down. Years of physical labor took their toll. My knees hurt constantly. My back ached every morning. I developed arthritis in my hands. Simple things became difficult. Getting on and off a horse, climbing into the tractor, even putting on boots was painful some mornings. I had to hire more help because I couldn't do everything myself anymore. And that was humbling. That was scary. Because if I couldn't work like I used to, what was I? That's when the realization started creeping in, slow at first, then faster. I'd be eating dinner alone at my kitchen table, the same meal I'd eaten 1,000 times before, and suddenly I'd feel this crushing weight on my chest. Loneliness. Real, painful, suffocating loneliness. The kind you can't ignore or push away. I'd look around my house, this big, beautiful house with top-of-the-line everything, and realize how empty it was. No wife's touch in the decoration, no kids' drawings on the fridge, no family photos on the walls, just functional furniture and walls that echoed. I started having these moments of panic. I'd wake up at 2 in the morning, my heart racing, covered in sweat, terrified. Terrified of dying alone. Terrified that all this work, all this sacrifice, all this success meant absolutely nothing. Terrified that when I die, which could be any day now given my age and health, there'll be nobody there. Nobody to hold my hand. Nobody to say goodbye to. Nobody to cry at my funeral except maybe a few business associates and employees who'll forget about me within a week. The ranch that I thought was my legacy started feeling like my prison. 12,000 acres of land, 5,000 head of cattle, 3 houses, millions of dollars in equipment and assets, and not a single person who gives a damn about any of it for any reason other than what they can get from it. No one who'll cherish it because it's part of their family history. No one who'll walk these fields and remember their grandfather teaching them to ride a horse here. No one who'll preserve this place because it means something beyond its monetary value. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that I could leave it all to charity or something. That material legacy wasn't what mattered. But who was I kidding? I spent my entire life building this. My father spent his life building this. My grandfather started this. 3 generations of Morrison blood, sweat and tears are in this soil, and it's all going to be sold off to some corporation that'll probably split it up and develop it. Everything we built, gone. Just like that. Last year, things got really bad. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. My doctor told me I need to completely change my lifestyle. Less stress, better diet, more rest. I laughed. I've been living on stress, terrible food, and minimal sleep for 40 years. How am I supposed to change now? But the scarier part was what he said next. He said at my age, with my health conditions, I need to get my affairs in order. That's doctor speak for, you might not have much time left. That night, I went home, and for the first time in decades I cried. Really cried. Not just a few tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. I cried for all the years I wasted. For Sarah Beth and what could have been. For the children I never had. For the grandchildren who don't exist. For the wife who never got to love me. For every birthday I spent alone. For every Christmas morning with no one to share it with. For every achievement that meant nothing, because there was no one who truly cared to share it with me. I cried because I finally understood what my father got wrong. He taught me to work hard, to build, to achieve. But he never taught me that none of it matters without people to share it with. He never taught me that success without love is just fancy loneliness. He never taught me that a man who doesn't need anyone isn't strong, he's just alone. And I'm so angry at him for that. So angry at myself for not figuring it out sooner. You know what the worst part is? I can't even blame anyone else, not really. Sure, my father's philosophy was flawed. Sure, society tells men we have to be tough and independent and self-sufficient. Sure, there were circumstances and choices along the way. But at the end of the day, I made my decisions. I chose work over love. I chose the ranch over relationships. I chose loneliness over vulnerability. Every single time there was a choice, I chose wrong. And now I have to live with that. Or die with it, more accurately. A few months ago, I tried something desperate. I started going to the senior center in town. They have these social events, dances, game nights, things like that. I thought maybe I could meet someone. Maybe there was a widow my age who'd want some companionship. Maybe it wasn't too late to have some kind of relationship, even if it couldn't lead to the family I never had. It was humiliating. I'm a 68-year-old man who's never kissed a woman, trying to flirt with widows who've had full lives with husbands and children and grandchildren. They could tell something was off about me. I didn't know how to talk to women, didn't know how to be charming or funny or romantic. All I could talk about was the ranch, cattle prices, land management, soil quality. They'd politely excuse themselves after a few minutes. Can't blame them. Who wants to spend their golden years with a socially awkward virgin rancher who has nothing to offer but money and property? There was one woman who seemed interested for a while, Margaret. She was 65, lost her husband 3 years ago to cancer. Nice lady. We went on a few dates. Dinner at the steakhouse in town. A movie. One time we drove to Oklahoma City to see a show. She was patient with my awkwardness, never made me feel bad about my inexperience. But after the 4th or 5th date, she sat me down and very gently told me she didn't think it would work out. "Robert," she said, "you're a good man, but you're not here. You're not present. Every conversation circles back to your ranch. Every silence makes you uncomfortable. You don't know how to just be with someone. And I get the feeling you don't really want a relationship. You want a solution to loneliness. That's not the same thing." She was right. I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for a band-aid for a wound that had been bleeding for 40 years. You can't build a real relationship on that. So she moved on. Last I heard, she's dating the retired high school principal. They look happy together in the photos I see people post on Facebook. Here's what I want to know from you, and please be honest in the comments. Is there something in your life you keep putting off because you think you have time? Maybe it's calling a parent you haven't talked to in years. Maybe it's asking someone out. Maybe it's changing careers or pursuing a dream. Whatever it is, what's stopping you? Because I put off living for 40 years thinking I had time, and now time's almost up. Don't make my mistake. Write it in the comments. Tell me what you're going to do differently after hearing my story. And if this is hitting home for you, share this video with someone else who needs to hear it. Sometimes we need to hear someone else's tragedy to avoid our own. The isolation got worse during COVID. I know that was hard for everyone, but for me it was particularly brutal. See, at least I used to have some human interaction. The guys who work on the ranch, though we mostly just talked business. Church on Sundays, even though I'd stopped going regularly. The occasional trip to town for supplies. But during lockdown, all of that stopped. It was just me, alone, on 12,000 acres of land. I'd go days without speaking to another human being, just me and the cattle, me and the horses, me and the crushing silence of this big empty house. I'd turn on the TV just to hear voices. I'd call the feed store to order things I didn't really need, just to have a conversation with the guy who answered the phone. I started talking to myself, out loud, full conversations, asking myself questions and answering them. I knew it was crazy, but it was either that or go completely insane from the silence. That's when I started really thinking about death. Not in a suicidal way, but in a practical way. What happens when I die? Who finds my body? Will it be one of the ranch hands coming to check on me when I don't show up for a few days? Will I die alone in my bed and just lay there for days before anyone notices? Will I have a heart attack out in the field somewhere, and the coyotes will get to me before any person does? These aren't pleasant thoughts, but they're real. They're what I think about every single day now. I updated my will last week. That's what I mentioned at the beginning, the decision I made that's going to shock you. I sat down with Richard Pemberton, my attorney. We've known each other for 30 years. He's handled all my legal affairs, all my land purchases, everything. Good man. Professional. We met at his office in Oklahoma City. He had all the paperwork ready. "So, Robert," he said, "we need to go through beneficiaries. Who do you want to leave the ranch to?" I just stared at him. The question hung in the air. Who do I leave it to? I don't have anyone. My father was an only child. My mother died when I was young. I have some distant cousins I haven't spoken to in decades. They don't care about this land. They didn't build it. They didn't sacrifice for it. They'd just sell it the moment probate cleared. I don't know, I finally said. My voice cracked. Grown man, sitting in an attorney's office, fighting back tears. Richard looked uncomfortable. Well, we need to put something. You could leave it to a charity, or we could set up a trust, or... It doesn't matter, I interrupted. None of it matters. Whatever I choose, this ranch dies with me. 3 generations of work, gone. Because I was too stupid to understand that land and cattle aren't a legacy. People are, family is. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Richard, bless him, tried to be helpful. Robert, you're only 68. That's not that old these days. You could still... Still what? I cut him off. Find a wife? Have kids? I'm almost 70 years old, Richard. I'm a virgin who doesn't know the first thing about relationships. I've got diabetes, arthritis, a bad back, and probably 10 years left if I'm lucky. No woman in her right mind would want this mess. And even if some miracle happened and I met someone tomorrow and we got married, what then? I'm too old to have kids, too set in my ways to really share my life. It's over. That ship sailed 40 years ago, and I was too busy loading hay bales to notice. Richard didn't know what to say to that. We ended up putting the ranch in a trust that'll sell it off and donate the proceeds to various agricultural charities and the local high school's Future Farmers program. At least some kids will benefit from it. At least it'll do some good. But it's not the same as passing it down to my son. It's not the same as teaching my grandson to ride a horse in these same fields where my grandfather taught my father. That generational continuity is broken, and I broke it. When I got home that night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went into the attic and dug out old photo albums, pictures of my father, my grandfather, me as a kid. There's one photo I keep coming back to. It's from Christmas 1965. I'm about 8 years old. My father and mother are there. We're all standing in front of our Christmas tree. My father has his arm around my mother's waist. She's laughing at something, her head tilted back, pure joy on her face. I'm in front of them, holding up a toy tractor I got as a present, grinning from ear to ear. We look happy. We look like a family. My mother died 2 years after that photo was taken. Cancer. It was quick and brutal. My father never really recovered. He threw himself into work, just like I would do later. And I realize now with horrible clarity that I learned all the wrong lessons from him. I learned his work ethic, but not his capacity for love. I learned his dedication, but not his ability to be vulnerable. I learned how to build a ranch, but not how to build a life. I wonder what my mother would think of me now. Would she be proud of what I've built, or would she be heartbroken that I'm alone? I think I know the answer. She used to tell me even when I was very young, Bobby, she called me Bobby, the most important thing in life is love. Love for family, love for others. Everything else is just details. I forgot that. Or maybe I never really understood it. Kids don't really grasp that kind of wisdom until it's too late. The physical isolation is bad enough, but the emotional isolation is worse. I have no one to share my thoughts with, no one to tell about my day, no one who asks me how I'm feeling, no one who cares about the little things. When you're in a relationship, you take those things for granted. The, how was your day at dinner? The, are you okay when you seem off? The, I'm proud of you when you accomplish something. I've lived without those small intimacies for so long that I'd forgotten they existed, but now I feel the absence of them like a physical ache. I tried therapy about 6 months ago. Figured I had nothing to lose. Found a therapist in Oklahoma City, a woman named Dr. Patricia Chen. Nice lady, professional, patient. I told her everything. The loneliness, the regrets, the fear of dying alone. She listened without judgment. After a few sessions, she said something that stuck with me. Robert, you're grieving a life you never lived. That's a unique kind of pain. Most people grieve what they had and lost. You're grieving what you never had to begin with, the family you never started, the wife you never married, the children you never raised. That's incredibly painful. And you need to give yourself permission to feel that pain. Permission to feel the pain, as if I needed permission. The pain is all I feel anymore. But I understood what she meant. I'd been trying to push it away, minimize it, tell myself it wasn't that bad. She was saying I needed to face it head on. Acknowledge the enormity of what I'd lost by never having it in the first place. Mourn the ghost of the life I could have had. But here's the thing about mourning something you never had. There's no closure. When someone dies, you grieve, but eventually you can make peace with it. You can remember the good times, cherish the memories, and slowly move forward. But how do you make peace with nothing? How do you cherish memories that don't exist? How do you move forward when there's nowhere to move forward to? You just exist in this limbo of regret and emptiness. I stopped going to therapy after 8 sessions. Not because it wasn't helping, but because it was too painful. Every session left me emotionally destroyed for days afterward. And what was the point? Understanding why I'm miserable doesn't make me less miserable. Knowing I sabotage my own happiness doesn't give me a time machine to fix it. So I quit. Stopped answering Dr. Chen's calls and emails. Just retreated back into my lonely routine on the ranch. The thing that kills me, really kills me, is thinking about all the moments I missed. First steps, first words, first day of school, teaching a kid to ride a bike, father-daughter dances, little league games, high school graduations, walking a daughter down the aisle, holding a grandchild for the first time, all of those beautiful, precious moments that give life meaning. I'll never experience any of them, and it's my fault. I chose acres over arms to hold me. I chose tractors over tiny hands to hold mine. I chose isolation over intimacy. There are moments, usually late at night, when the weight of it all becomes unbearable. I'll be lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I'll think about just ending it. Just taking one of the hunting rifles and finishing this lonely existence. I'm not going to do it. I'm too much of a coward for that. But the thought crosses my mind. Because what's the point of continuing? To work until I physically can't anymore. To sit alone in this house for another 5 or 10 years, getting older and sicker and more isolated. To die alone eventually anyway, whether it's next month or next decade. But then morning comes. The sun rises over those 12,000 acres. The cattle need tending. The fences need checking. Work needs to be done. And I get up and do it, because it's all I know how to do. It's all I've ever known how to do. Work is my comfort, my prison, my purpose, and my punishment all rolled into one. Third audience engagement. I need to ask you something important, and I really hope you'll take a moment to answer in the comments. What would you tell your younger self if you could go back in time? What mistake would you prevent? What choice would you change? For me, it's obvious. I'd tell 25-year-old Robert to ask Sarah Beth out properly, to take that risk, to choose love over land. But I can't go back. You still have time. Whatever that thing is that you know you should do but you're scared to do, please, do it. Learn from my tragedy. Write in the comments what you're going to change after watching this. And please, if you know someone who's prioritizing all the wrong things in life, share this video with them. Maybe my pain can prevent someone else's. I've been thinking a lot lately about what constitutes a successful life. Society tells us it's money, achievements, possessions, status. By those measures, I'm incredibly successful. I'm a millionaire several times over. I own more land than most people will ever see in their lifetime. I've won awards. I've been written about in magazines. People in the agricultural industry know my name, but I'd trade all of it, every single acre, every single dollar, every award and accolade for one thing, to have a family dinner table with my wife and kids around it, to have someone call me dad or grandpa, to matter to someone beyond my bank account. The ranch hands who work for me, they're good men, hard-working, reliable, respectful, but at the end of the day, I'm their boss, not their family. They go home to their wives and kids. They have lives beyond these 12,000 acres. I'm just the guy who signs their paychecks. When I die, they'll find new jobs. They'll remember me as that old rancher we worked for. And that'll be it. I won't be woven into the fabric of their family histories. I won't be the grandpa they tell stories about. I'll just be a former employer. Sometimes I drive into town and just watch families. I'll sit in my truck outside the grocery store or the park, and I'll watch fathers with their children, mothers holding their babies, grandparents playing with grandkids, and I feel this mix of envy and sadness that's almost physically painful. That should be me. I should be the old man pushing a granddaughter on a swing. I should be the one at the Little League field cheering for my grandson. I should be the one having Sunday dinner surrounded by family. But I'm not. I'm the creepy old guy sitting alone in a truck watching other people's happiness. A couple months ago, Tom Henderson, you remember him, he married Sarah Beth. His truck broke down near my property. I saw him on the side of the road, helped him out, gave him a ride to the auto shop. We talked during the drive. He told me about his kids, all 4 of them doing well. The oldest is a doctor in Tulsa, second one's a teacher like Sarah Beth was. The other 2 are still figuring things out, but they're good kids, he says. He told me about his grandkids, showed me pictures on his phone. 7 little faces, all smiles and joy. "You're a lucky man, Tom," I said. He looked at me with genuine sympathy in his eyes. "Robert, it's not too late for you, you know. You could still—" "Yeah, it is," I interrupted gently. "But that's okay, I made my choices." We drove in silence for a bit. Then he said something that's been echoing in my head ever since. "The saddest thing about regret is that it's the only thing we can't do anything about. We can fix almost anything else, but we can't unregret something." He's right. I can't unfeel this. I can't undo the past. I can't bring back the years I wasted. I can't resurrect opportunities I let die. All I can do is live with it. Live with the knowing that I had a chance at happiness and I was too stupid or too scared to take it. Live with the fact that my legacy isn't a family who loves me, but a property that'll be sold to the highest bidder. You know what haunts me most? It's not the big moments I missed, though those hurt plenty. It's the small ones. It's never having someone to cook breakfast for, never having a wife steal the covers in the middle of the night, never having a kid interrupt me while I'm working to show me a drawing they made, never having a teenager roll their eyes at my dad jokes, never having an adult child call me for advice, never having a grandkid fall asleep on my lap while I'm reading them a story. These tiny, ordinary moments that make up a life, I'll never have any of them. People always say, money can't buy happiness, and I'm living proof of that. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I could buy anything I want. But I can't buy a family, I can't buy love, I can't buy someone to genuinely care whether I live or die. I can't buy my way out of this loneliness. The richest man in the graveyard is still just as dead as the poorest one. And when I'm in that grave, I'll have died never knowing what it means to truly be loved by a partner, to be needed by a child, to be cherished by a grandchild. My health continues to deteriorate. Last month I had a scare. Chest pains that sent me to the emergency room. Turned out to be angina, not a heart attack, but it was a wake-up call. The ER doctor, a young woman probably in her 30s, asked me the routine questions. Did I have someone at home to monitor me? Did I have family to call in case of emergency? Who was my emergency contact? The answer to all of it was no one. She looked at me with such sadness. Pity, really. And that hurt worse than the chest pains. They kept me overnight for observation. I was in a hospital room alone watching TV I didn't care about, thinking about how this is probably how I'll die. In a hospital bed, alone, with strangers taking care of me in my final moments. No wife to hold my hand, no children to say goodbye to, no grandchildren to remember me by. Just me and whatever underpaid, overworked nurse happens to be on shift when my time comes. I've started writing letters. Letters I'll never send because there's no one to send them to. Letters to the wife I never had, telling her how sorry I am I never found her. Letters to the children I never had, explaining why they don't exist and how much I regret that. Letters to the grandchildren who'll never be born, trying to share whatever wisdom I've gained from wasting my life so spectacularly. It's pathetic, I know, but it's the only way I can process this grief for people who don't exist. The worst part about all of this isn't the loneliness itself, it's the knowledge that it's self-inflicted. If some tragedy had befallen me, if I'd lost a family to an accident, or if I'd tried and failed to find love, that would be one thing. I could make peace with that as fate or bad luck. But this is me. I did this to myself. I had every opportunity to have a different life, and I actively chose not to. Every time a door opened, I closed it. Every time someone reached out, I pulled back. I built this prison brick by brick with my own hands, and now I'm locked inside it for the rest of my life. Sometimes I think about parallel universe versions of myself. In one universe, Robert Morrison married Sarah Beth Connors. They have 3 kids and 6 grandkids. He still runs a ranch, but it's smaller, more manageable. He didn't become the 3rd richest rancher in Oklahoma, but he became a husband, a father, a grandfather. He has Sunday dinners with his whole family. He has photos on his walls of people he loves and who love him back. He goes to bed every night, next to a woman who chose to spend her life with him. That Robert is happy. That Robert succeeded at life. But that's not this universe. In this universe, Robert Morrison chose wrong at every turn. He prioritized all the wrong things. He built an empire of dirt and animals and machinery, and he did it at the expense of his soul. This Robert has money and land and success. This Robert has nothing that matters. I went back to church a few weeks ago. First time in years. I don't know what I was looking for. Forgiveness, maybe. Absolution? A miracle? I sat in the back pew during the service. The pastor, new guy I didn't know, gave a sermon about the parable of the rich fool from Luke chapter 12. You know the one. The man who builds bigger barns to store all his grain, planning for a comfortable retirement. And God says, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" I felt like that sermon was written specifically for me. Here I am with my 3 houses and 12,000 acres and 5,000 head of cattle, and for what? Who gets it when I'm gone? Strangers, corporations, people who'll divide it up and sell it off and forget the Morrison name within a generation. All this work, all this sacrifice, all this success, and it amounts to nothing in the end because I have no one to pass it to. After the service, I tried to leave quietly, but the pastor caught me at the door. Young guy, mid-30s maybe, wedding ring on his finger. "Haven't seen you here before," he said with a friendly smile. "I'm Pastor Michael." "Robert Morrison," I said, shaking his hand. "I used to come here long time ago." "Well, welcome back. I hope the service spoke to you." I laughed bitterly. "It did. Hit a little too close to home, actually." He looked concerned. "Would you like to talk about it? I'm here to listen." I almost said no, almost walked away like I always do. But something in me broke. Maybe it was the sermon. Maybe it was just reaching my limit of carrying this alone. So I said yes. We sat on a bench outside the church, and I told him everything. The whole pathetic story. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Robert, I'm not going to tell you everything will be okay. At 68, you're right that some opportunities are gone, but you're not dead yet, and as long as you're breathing, there's still purpose for your life." "What purpose?" I asked. "What am I supposed to do with all this regret?" "Share it," he said. "Tell your story. Maybe you can't save yourself from the consequences of your choices, but you can help others avoid making the same mistakes. That's a form of legacy too. Not the one you wanted, but maybe the one you're meant to have." That conversation stuck with me. It's actually part of why I'm sharing this story now. If even one person hears this and decides to choose differently, to prioritize love over work, family over achievement, connection over isolation, then maybe my wasted life will have meant something. Maybe I can be the cautionary tale that saves someone else. I've been thinking about the concept of legacy a lot. What is a legacy really? I used to think it was what you leave behind in material terms, the property, the money, the physical mark you make on the world. But I was wrong. A legacy is who remembers you and how they remember you. It's the lives you touched, the love you gave, the people you shaped. By that measure, I have no legacy. When I die, the Morrison Ranch will be remembered for a generation, maybe 2, as that big property that got sold off and developed. But Robert Morrison, the man, I'll be forgotten within months, because I didn't invest in people. I invested in land. And land doesn't remember you. My father used to have this saying, "Don't count your money, count your friends." He said it, but he didn't live it. And I took it even further in the wrong direction. I don't have money. I mean, I do, but that's not what I count. I count acres. I count cattle. I count equipment and assets and inventory. But friends, family, people who actually care about me as a human being, that count is 0. My father failed to teach me the right lessons, but I failed to learn the right lessons too. I can't blame everything on him. The isolation is getting to me in physical ways now. I catch myself talking to the cattle like they're people, having full conversations with my horse. imagining what it would be like if someone else was here. Sometimes I set 2 places at the dinner table just to pretend I'm not alone. Then I eat both meals because I can't stand to waste food. I'm going crazy, slowly but surely. Loneliness does that to a person. It breaks you down from the inside. Last week, one of my ranch hands, young guy named Jake, brought his 3-year-old daughter to work with him. His wife had a doctor's appointment, and childcare fell through. I told him it was fine, bring her along. Watching that little girl follow her daddy around, chattering away, holding his hand, looking up at him with absolute adoration. It destroyed me. That's what I gave up. That pure, unconditional love of a child. The trust, the joy, the connection. Jake doesn't even realize how rich he is. He probably worries about money sometimes, about providing for his family. But he has everything that matters. He has someone who calls him Daddy. He has a reason to come home every day. He has a purpose beyond work. When they left, I went into my house and cried for 2 hours straight, deep, painful sobs that felt like they were tearing something out of my chest. Because it's too late for me to have that. I'll never be called Dad. I'll never have a little hand holding mine. I'll never be anyone's hero. I'm just a rich old man dying alone in a big empty house. I've started giving things away. Not the ranch, that's all tied up in the trust, but personal items. My father's pocket watch went to Jake, the ranch hand with the daughter. My grandfather's rifle went to another worker who I know will appreciate it. Photo albums I'm scanning and sending to distant relatives, who probably won't care but might at least preserve the images. I'm trying to distribute pieces of my family history before it all gets thrown away or sold off by estate executors who don't know what any of it means. It's a strange feeling dismantling your life before you're dead, but what else am I going to do? Leave it all for strangers to throw in a dumpster? At least this way, I have some control over where things go. At least I can try to ensure that some small pieces of the Morrison family history survive, even if the family itself is extinct. The dreams are the worst part. I dream about the life I could have had. I dream I'm married to Sarah Beth. We're old together, sitting on a porch swing, watching our grandkids play in the yard. She's holding my hand. We're laughing about something. We're comfortable together. That deep comfort that comes from decades of partnership. Then I wake up, and I'm alone in my bed, in my empty house with my empty life. And the contrast is so painful I can't breathe. Those dreams are both a gift and a torture. A glimpse of what could have been, and a reminder of what will never be. The finality of it all is what I struggle with most. If I was 40 or even 50, I could tell myself there's still time to change things. But at 68, with failing health, that's a delusion. This is it. This is my life. These are the consequences of my choices. There's no third act redemption coming. There's no miracle that's going to fix this. I'm going to live out whatever time I have left in this lonely existence, and then I'm going to die alone. And that's the end of the Morrison family line. Sometimes people in town try to be encouraging. You never know what tomorrow brings, they'll say. Or, it's never too late for love. But they're wrong. It is too late. Even if some widow my age wanted to marry me tomorrow, it wouldn't change the fundamental emptiness of my life. I've lived 68 years without love, without intimacy, without family. You can't make up for that in whatever time I have left. The deficit is too large, the hole is too deep. I'm not looking for pity. I want to be very clear about that. I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me. I made my bed, and now I'm lying in it. What I want is for you to learn from my mistakes. I want you to understand that success without love is not success at all. That achievement without someone to share it with is hollow. That all the money and land and possessions in the world can't fill the emptiness of coming home to an empty house every single day. If you're young and you're watching this, please listen to me. Don't sacrifice relationships for career. Don't put off love because you think you have time. Don't convince yourself that you're fine alone when you're really just scared of vulnerability. Take risks on people. Open your heart. Let yourself need someone. Because I promise you, no achievement, no amount of money, no professional success will ever be worth dying alone. If you're middle-aged and you've been prioritizing all the wrong things, it's not too late for you. You still have time. Make changes now. Repair relationships you've neglected. Pursue connections you've been avoiding. Choose people over things. Choose love over comfort. Choose vulnerability over safety. You still have time. Don't waste it like I did. And if you're my age or older, and you're in a similar situation to mine, I don't have easy answers for you. But I will say this: share your story. Let your regrets serve as a warning to others. Find whatever purpose you can in the time you have left. Maybe we can't have the lives we should have had, but we can at least help others avoid our mistakes. That's something. It's not what we wanted, but it's something. The ranch will be sold when I die. The Morrison name will fade from Oklahoma agricultural history within a generation. The land my grandfather settled, the ranch my father built, the empire I expanded. It'll all be gone, divided up and repurposed by people who never knew any of us. And maybe that's what I deserve. Maybe that's the fitting end to a family line that died because one man was too scared and too stupid to choose love over acres. But if you're reading this, if you're hearing my story, please don't let it be for nothing. Please look at your own life and ask yourself, what am I prioritizing? What am I sacrificing? What will I regret? And then make different choices than I did. Choose love, choose family, choose connection, choose the things that actually matter. Because everything else, all of it, turns to dust. The only thing that lasts is love. And I learned that too late. I'm Robert Clayton Morrison. I own the third largest ranch in Oklahoma. I'm a millionaire. I'm successful by every material measure. And I'm the loneliest, most regretful man you'll ever meet. I've spent my entire life building something that meant nothing because I had no one to share it with. Don't be like me. Please, don't be like me.